You know what? It is time for us to get out from behind that table and get to know each other a little bit better, kind of bring you into our lives a little bit. So I'm gonna give you a story time. A couple years ago, it was time for my mom, who is getting a little bit up there in age, to move into a place where she doesn't have to worry about anything anymore. And I looked around my hometown, and eventually I did find a place that I thought was really great. It had a wonderful staff, it had a really nice facility, but for me, the best part was the chef. They had poached him from one of the best restaurants in town, and everything he made was just amazing. Nothing fancy, just kind of like your regular Southern cuisine, but just really, really tasty. My mom, though, she is picky, like really picky. Still taking the crust off of her bread picky. She would be happy just going to Dairy Queen and getting a hamburger or eating a steak like every night of the week. I still remember when she called me up to complain one time. She just was beside herself. And so she got me on the phone and she said, "Theodore, I don't know how much longer I can take it. He puts garlic on everything." And I thought about that story when we first got our hands on the Fizban's Treasury of Dragons book last year. I could just imagine the writers sitting around the room, around a table, trying to figure out how they could add dragons to everything in D&D. Add them to beholders, add them to mind flayers, to hydras, to ghosts, to golems, to oozes, just to everything. And it was such a great book. It was just a fantastic book, and it's a fantastic mini set, and that's what we're looking at today. It's also a really unique one. This set includes some of the biggest minis that we have gotten in a booster set yet. Here, just take a look at this guy. Right there. It's enormous. It looks like one of our premium figures. They were so big that Wizards introduced, or WizKids, introduced something called a Super Booster. And we're going to talk all about that at the end, because I know what you're here for is to see the rest of these minis. So while I finish cooking up some Japanese curry with lots of garlic, because that's the way I like it, I'm going to tell you about some dragons. First though, this video is made possible by Hit Point Press and their deck of mini animated spells. Pick up their starter bundles today for 20 bucks off. Each card is tarot sized and includes 8 frames of lenticular animation each. Learn more at animatedspells.com. And our Kobold plush Kickstarter ends on Sunday. All 6 kobolds are out now. They're all unlocked, but surprise, we have one more for you, our black kobold monk. His name is Kaku. You can help us unlock him and maybe a couple of other surprises if things go really well before it's too late though. So you can pick up our pens, you can pick up our minis, our VTT assets, our goblin gold coin, and of course our plushies and their little accessory packs to make them a druid, a barbarian, or a cleric. You can go right now and do that at koboldplush.com. But now, Icons of the Realms, Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, compliments of WizKids. Let's get to it. Okay, so we're not starting off with the most visually appealing mini in the set, and it's not a creature that you really want to find in your kitchen for a number of different reasons. This is an adult egg hunter. They seek out dragon eggs, burrow inside, eat what they find, and then deposit their own eggs inside the dragon egg shell. If it's cornered, it can release spores that can make other creatures lethargic. It can also harden its shell against many types of damage as a reaction. It has a CR of 5. The Dragon Blessed are one of several types of new dragon followers introduced in the book. The Blessed are dragon acolytes who wield healing and supportive magic given to them by the dragon to support the other followers. In their CR5 stat blocks, they come armed with spells like Enhance Ability, Flame Strike, Mass Cure Wounds, Revivify, and Tongues. This is a really nice generic mini that can be used for anything from a townsperson at the city square to a player character. This mini represents the Dragon Chosen, mighty warriors who channel a dragon's physical strength. They're strong melee fighters, dual-wielding an axe and a short sword in their CR3 stat block. They have an 18 strength and an 18 dex. Now, interestingly, this mini seems to be a Duragar, and we certainly don't have very many female Duragar minis that look like PC heroes. So this is a nice addition to your PC mini collection too. So we have the Dragon's support crew in the Dragon Blessed, their muscle in the Dragon Chosen, and now we get their ambassadors in the Dragon Speakers, here represented by this pretty cute little gnome figure. They have a 17 charisma, immunity from being charmed or frightened, and access to spells like Calm Emotions, Charm Person, Command, and Comprehend Languages. It all adds up to a CR of 2. And if you painted his little cap red, well, that would be a whole different kind of story. This is about as close as we've gotten to an almost flat 2D mini. I tilted the camera up here a little bit to give you a better look at it. The Hoard Scarabs are, of course, beetle-like creatures that look remarkably like gold coins, and they feed on the little mites that infest a dragon's lair. But when anyone starts to poke around the dragon's hoard, they may end up getting a nasty little surprise, as the scarabs have a particularly strong bite. They also serve as those little ink packets that stores use to deter thieves. They can coat anyone poking around in the hoard in a golden dust that the dragons can then track. They have a CR 1/8 stat block. This set also features a number of new Kobold minis, which always makes me happy. It's a little surprising though, because the actual Fizban's book sadly doesn't really contain much information about kobolds. We're starting with the Kobold Zombie here, which I don't think shows up in Fizban's at all. I think the only real mention of Kobold Zombies that I'm aware of anyway is in Rime of the Frost Maiden, which has a CR 1/8 stat block for a Kobold Zombie. The Frost Maiden mini set also included a Kobold Vampire spawn, which could also double as a zombie. Here we have our first real dragon, the Deep Dragon Wyrmling. Deep dragons are the nightmarish cousins of the chromatic dragons. They live in the Underdark and can breathe out spores that can instill fear and poison the mind. Later in life, those spores can attach themselves to the dragon's skin, where they start to grow as fungi. This Wyrmling is the only deep dragon that we get in this set. He has a CR of 1. Here's our next kobold, the Rogue. Now, there's no stat block for a, quote, Kobold Rogue in any of the books, so you'll just have to tinker with an existing one to match this mini, or you can possibly use our upcoming stat block for Shep, our own Kobold Rogue who comes in plushie and mini form with his best friend Pickles the Hedgehog. But I digress. Don't forget that we did do a review of the Kobold Warband last year, so with these latest additions, you can have quite a diverse array of little kobolds to threaten your party. You can see our review of that set in the link in the corner of your screen. The Green Guard Drake here is actually a creature from Volo's Guide to Monsters. It's not a natural creature, but one created from dragon scales using a, of course, dark ritual, which was devised by the cult of Tiamat before it spread to other groups. The resulting creature does need to be trained, but then it can serve as a very loyal and obedient pet. Getting the scales needed to create the Drake does require the cooperation of the dragon in question, so the Drake usually becomes an ally of someone in the dragon's retinue, though it could be a cool reward for an adventuring party who did the dragon a favor. But the real reason this creature was included in this new set was because of the new Drakewarden subclass for the Ranger included in the book, where you can get your very own Drake companion. The Green Guard Drake here has a CR of 2. Next we have the Blue Dragon Wyrmling. Is it just me, or are the Blue Dragon Wyrmlings just the cutest? It is such a shame that they grow up to be such vain and jealous jerks. They typically live in the deserts and have lightning breath. We did get an unpainted Blue Dragon Wyrmling previously in the Nolzur's line. This is a new sculpt, however, of course lacking that little bit of terrain that always comes with those unpainted minis that a lot of you really hate. This one is the only blue dragon that we get in this entire set. The Wyrmling has a CR of 3. Now this one is just out of left field. The Vine Blight is a monster manual creature, and we got a pretty good Vine Blight mini not that long ago in Fangs and Talons, so I'm not really sure why it's in this set. It's created by an evil Golthias tree, which can be found in Tales from the Yawning Portal and Curse of Strahd. Vine Blights appear in those adventures as well as in Dragon of Icespire Peak. Vine Blights have a CR of 1/2. The inclusion of this mini is even more of a surprise. The Koalinth are martial and aggressive aquatic hobgoblins who currently only appear in 5e in the Danger at Dunwater adventure in Ghosts of Saltmarsh. We did get a Koalinth Sergeant mini in the recent Ghosts of Saltmarsh box number 1 set, which you can see our review of in the eye in the corner of your screen right now. Perhaps this mini was intended to be in one of those boxes and got delayed. It is interesting because this mini retains the pose and the net of the Sergeant art, which you can see here, but it has the clothing and the weapon of the basic Koalinth, which you can see the art of here now. Only the Sergeant has that hooked net in its stat block. A basic Koalinth has a CR of 1/2. And now back to our regularly scheduled dragon programming. Here is the Emerald Dragon Wyrmling. Don't let your kiddo accidentally eat it thinking it is a gummy dragon. According to the lore, the Emerald Dragon scales don't actually become translucent until it's quite a bit older, but I honestly prefer this look because it's more distinctive from the green dragons. Emerald dragons are curious, cunning, and manipulative. They use our psychic powers to make illusions. This is the only Emerald Dragon that we get in this set, but we did get an adult Emerald Dragon in the WizKids Adult Dragon line not too long ago. You can see that review in the corner of your screen right now. The Emerald Dragon Wyrmling has a CR of 2. Fizban gives you the rules to create Dragonborn PC characters who have gem dragon heritages. We're starting off with an Emerald Dragonborn, and of course it would also work as a green Dragonborn. An Emerald Dragonborn does psychic damage with its breath weapon and has resistance to psychic damage as well. I feel like this mini would also make for a really interesting Han Solo type Vesk PC mini for your Starfinder games too. If you like Dragonborn minis though, this set has you covered. Here's another, the Amethyst Dragonborn, with a breath weapon of force damage and resistance to the same, which is pretty dang useful. While this mini does give me Jar Jar energy, he is a cool one to have around. It's possibly the only purple-colored Dragonborn mini that I've ever seen. His sword might need a little straightening out, however. One other neat thing about the Gem Dragonborn is that they develop the power to manifest wings for a short amount of time at 5th level. Alright, now we're taking a little detour to hell. The Hydroloth is a Yugoloth fiend from the Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. They live in the water of the river Styx and steal the memories of those that they attack, usually purposefully to deliver back to their masters. When they successfully steal a target's memories, that person loses all proficiencies, the ability to cast spells, the ability to speak and understand language, and their intelligence and charisma scores fall down to 5. Pretty harsh. As mercenaries, like most Yugoloths, they often are hired for amphibious assaults on ships or coastal settlements. They have a CR of 9. Like most creatures from Mordenkainen's, they haven't really shown up in any 5e adventures yet. Okay, here's an interesting one. You may be thinking that this guy looks like a cute little Amethyst Dragon Wyrmling, and you can certainly use it for that, but this mini is meant to represent a Draconic Shard. This is the psionic energy sometimes left over when a gem dragon dies. The sword represents the item that the dragon poured its energy into. That sword, or other item, might be carried by a hero as a sentient item, helping the adventurers complete the dragon's mission or furthering its agenda. The Draconic Shard has a pretty beefy CR17 stat block, which contains information about how to use the shard as a magical item for your characters, which is a pretty unique thing for a stat block to do. And now, back to our kobolds. Here we have a Kobold Warlock, which bears some similarity to the Kobold Scale Sorcerer. It's a winged kobold with a staff and a fireball effect. Again, a cool addition to your Kobold Warband or a possible PC mini. Now, there are no PC stat blocks for a winged kobold, but apparently a developer at D&D Beyond, codenamed Bad Eye, homebrewed a series of feats that you can take, including one for growing wings on your Kobold PC character. We'll post a link to his feats down below. There's lots of fun stuff in there, check it out. Draconians are born from dragon eggs that have been corrupted by magic, often deliberately. Someone with access to the necessary magic might steal an egg, corrupt it, and birth several Draconians to use as they will. Copper, black, and topaz dragon eggs can birth Draconian Infiltrators, who use their natural acid to assist with assassinations. This mini, however, is not a Draconian Infiltrator, at least according to the art in the book, which you can see here. Yeah, that's not the same creature. This mini is mislabeled, but I already showed you the art for this mini a little bit earlier on. Do you remember? What was it? I'm pretty sure this mini is meant to represent the Drakewarden. We will have some actual Draconians coming up here in just a little bit, though. And now back to our actual dragons. Here is our green dragon Wyrmling. We get quite a few little Wyrmlings in this set. Green dragons, as you probably know, have poison breath. This Wyrmling has a CR of 2, like most of them do. I'd love to hear about how you've used dragon Wyrmlings in your games. They aren't exactly big threats to most parties, but they have the potential to be very important pawns, to be stolen or traded or bargained with. Let me know your Wyrmling stories in the comment section down below. The last dragon wyrmling in this set is the Black Dragon Wyrmling, a CR2 creature with acid breath. If you do dig these wyrmling minis, you may want to look into the various wyrmling promos that WizKids is releasing with Fizbans. Namely, we get 2 minis of the Crystal, Amethyst, Topaz, and Moonstone dragons each. We'll have a video review of all the promo figures and how to get them here very soon, and if that video is out now, you can find it in the link in the corner of your screen. All right, here we go. Our first actual Draconian, the Foot Soldier. These are the most numerous of the Draconians, born from corrupted brass, white, or crystal eggs. They're relatively small and incapable of flight, despite having those wings. When Draconians die, the magic that created them is unleashed in a torrent based on their type. The Foot Soldier erupts in petrifying gas. Draconians are actually from the Dragonlance setting, and the book gives you details about their role on the Dragonlance world of Krynn. The Foot Soldiers have a CR of 1/2. Next, we have the Draconian Mage, born from bronze, green, or emerald dragon eggs. They often support the Foot Soldiers in their attacks. They still can't fly, but they are able to glide. Their spell repertoire is rather limited. They just have access to Enlarge Reduce, Invisibility, and Stinking Cloud, but each of those spells can have a pretty large impact. When they die, they explode into force damage. The mages have a CR of 2. Next, we get the CR6 Draconian Mastermind, the rarest and most powerful of the Draconian bunch. They have access to spells like Invisibility, Mage Hand, Dimension Door, Disguise Self, and Sending. They're born from gold, red, or amethyst dragon eggs, and they are wingless. They also have access to a poisonous breath weapon. They emit ball lightning when they die. You may have noticed that we still haven't learned about the Draconian born from silver, blue, or emerald dragon eggs. Well, sit tight, we will get there soon. Here we have the Liondrake, a CR7 creature that has the neck and wings of a brass dragon and the head and body of a lion. They do speak Draconic, but they have a pretty low intelligence score of 6. They aren't evil, but they are territorial, so if you run into their domain, you best be careful. Their origin is somewhat muddled, and Fizbans doesn't really give you much context about them at all, but Liondrake's, under the name of Dragonez, which I'm probably mispronouncing, have been around since first edition. Some of our scholarly commenters down there may be willing to give us a little bit more historical context to them. Here we're moving into some really nice looking young dragon figures. The young dragon minis are large-sized creatures on huge-sized bases for stability and to fit with the slightly oversized sizing that WizKids and Wizards of the Coast are giving to the dragon minis these days. There is a white circle on the base to remind you of the actual creature size. Moonstone dragons can trace their origins to the Feywild. They are graceful, elegant, playful, and impetuous, like many denizens of the Feywild. They can project themselves into the dreams of people sleeping nearby, usually to inspire them with creativity. They have a CR of 8. This is the only Moonstone dragon in the set, but 2 Moonstone Wyrmlings are available as promos. Next is the young Crystal Dragon, another very cool one. Crystal Dragons have an innate psionic connection to the positive plane, which makes them radiate light and have a very nurturing and optimistic attitude, more so than even most metallic dragons. They're known for adopting abandoned dragon eggs of other dragons, so don't be surprised if you see a few white or blue dragon wyrmlings playing around inside a Crystal Dragon's lair. It gives you an opportunity to explore a nature versus nurture theme in your story as well. Crystal dragons live in desolate, frigid regions and have a breath weapon that causes radiant damage. The young Crystal Dragon has a CR of 5. 2 Crystal Dragon Wyrmlings are available as promo figures. Here's another mini that wouldn't look out of place in a Starfinder game. This is a metallic peacekeeper, a being constructed by a metallic dragon to protect a settlement of smaller folk whom the dragon has grown fond of. They're forged from the metal associated with the dragon in question and powered by energy from its breath. True to their name, their primary purpose is to de-escalate potentially volatile situations. This mini would also make a great inventor innovation for a Pathfinder inventor character, or as any kind of robotic construct in Starfinder. Here is our last Draconian, the Dreadnought. Very cool figure here. The Dreadnoughts, if you were keeping track, are born from silver, blue, or sapphire eggs. And these are actually capable of flight. They can magically assume the guise of anyone they've slain, which allows them to truly sow chaos and confusion in the enemy ranks. Otherwise, they are mostly brutes with a CR of 4, but they do burst into flame upon death. You know how a lot of new D&D players will just beg you to play as dragons? Come on, you said I could do anything and be anything. Well, people like that exist inside the universe as well. They think dragons are so cool and they want to try to become one, usually by collecting dragon parts and then grafting them onto their own bodies. Sometimes they just eat the parts, which I don't know what they expect that to accomplish. Anyway, usually they just die, but sometimes the grafting takes and the person ends up getting corrupted and warped by the dragon's lingering magic, resulting in these abominations. The Dragonflesh Grafter has a CR of 3. Next, we have a Gem Stalker. It looks rather sinister, but it might not be. They're created by gem dragons when the dragon kills an aberrant creature from the far realm and is able to reshape it into a servant and protector. Its skin is clustered with crystals gleaming with psychic energy. They are large creatures, but oversized here to impressive effect. They have a huge size base with the large size circle inside of it, and their CR is 5. In many ways, this was inevitable. We should have all seen it coming. Someone, somewhere, was going to bring dragon blood to life. Though generally creating out-of-control oozes like this probably wasn't plan A. The Dragonblood Ooze tries to reshape itself to resemble a dragon, but it's not very good at it. It also tries to give itself a breath weapon, which usually involves just spewing part of itself at an enemy, and then reeling it all back in, enemy included, which is actually a pretty effective attack. The Dragonblood Ooze has a CR of 5. I mean, you can't have Fizban's Treasury of Dragons without good old Fizban the Fabulous. He doesn't technically have a stat block anywhere, but Fizban is really a mask that he wears. In the realm of Dragonlance, Fizban is a guise worn by the powerful being known as Paladin, one of the beings who created the original dragons. In the main Forgotten Realms setting, Paladin is better known as Bahamut. So if you want Bahamut to make an appearance in your adventures, this mini may be a really fun way to do that. I always try to figure out which mini in all these sets is the one that most seems out of place, and I think this one is a contender. The Brain in a Jar is another creature from Rime of the Frost Maiden. It's actually got a fairly fun stat block full of control abilities, but by itself it isn't really much of a threat. I did use a Brain in the Jar, or 2 rather, in my last adventure, Be All My Sins Remembered, which was in the Uncaged Goddesses book, available now on DM's Guild. The Brain in a Jar has a CR of 3. Our next 3 minis are Dragonborn champions who have a spiritual connection to their divine dragon ancestor. They attempt to advance the causes of that particular dragon god. First, we have the Dragonborn champion of Tiamat, who has a slightly odd gait here. It looks like he's kind of tiptoeing around something. These so-called Talons of Tiamat primarily want to free Tiamat from her prison in Avernus and are often associated with the cult of the dragon. They have a necrotic breath weapon and a CR of 7. The Dragonborn of Bahamut is my favorite mini in the set. You want to be the most visible character in any party composition, then you want to be this Platinum Knight. The Golden Paladin of Bahamut, sworn to protect the world from evil, particularly evil dragons. Champions of Bahamut have those distinctive platinum wings, which is something you'll have to work out with your GM if you want to use this as a PC mini. The stat block also includes a Radiant Breath weapon and a Healing Touch in the CR8 stat block. Finally, we have the Dragonborn of Sardior, the dragon god of night, psionics, and secrets, the god of the gem dragons. Now, I'm not sure about the way they transitioned this mini from its art to its mini form. The floating gems of anything related to gem dragons is forever going to be a problem when you're dealing with minis, until we start getting some highly specific magnets installed into them. Let me know what you think, though. The Dragonborn of Sardior has psionic spellcasting abilities in its CR6 stat block. Or maybe this is the most surprising mini in the set. It's a Bathtub Mimic. I don't know where it came from. I don't know why it's here, but I love it and I want to use it all the time. I do have one unreasonable request for WizKids though. I wish we had alternate versions of all these Mimic minis that are the objects that the Mimics are, well, mimicking. So give me a regular Bathtub Mini too. That way we can switch the minis out when they attack. And that would just forever frighten the PCs from approaching any of your scattered terrain. The Mimic has a CR2 stat block in the basic rules. Here we move into the really big minis, the ones that appear in the super booster boxes, starting here with the Dragonbone Golem, a figure that has to be really tough to translate into mini form from that art. Dark mages like to use every part of the dragon. Here they've taken dragon bones, wired them up with adamantine into the rough shape of a dragon, like you might see at the Baldur's Gate Natural History Museum, and then yada yada yada, you've got a Dragonbone Golem. And they're usually created by rival dragons after they've killed their foe. They end up being quite formidable guards for the dragon's lair with their CR11 stat blocks. The mini is about 7.5 inches tall. Now here's another excellent Mimic mini, the Hoard Mimic, and at least I know where this one came from. These are huge-sized mimics that you can read about in Fizbans. They're among the oldest and most cunning of their kind. Instead of appearing like a single object, it appears as a mountain of treasure. They still have that adhesive goo to trap foes, but they can also vent a caustic mist from their many pores, which burns and blinds people nearby. What better and more embarrassing way to kill off a weakened hero after their epic victory against that adult red dragon boss? The Hoard Mimic has a CR8 stat block, and wouldn't you just like to see a Dragon's Hoard mini that would entice your players? Our next very large mini is the Young Sea Serpent, which does qualify as a dragon according to its stat block. These huge-sized creatures are the agile hunters of the sea, using their bites and tail and constricting grip and a frigid breath weapon to bring down entire galleons. They are intelligent and able to speak Common and Draconic, but they're fiercely territorial, so if you upset one by passing through its domain without permission, it's going to be quite a feat to try to talk it down. They have a CR of 8. Our next dragon is the young Amethyst Dragon, and this one is very pretty. The Amethyst Dragon is the mightiest of the gem dragons, able to psionically manipulate the very fundamental principles of the multiverse, including being able to influence how the physical laws of the universe affect them. They fly by altering gravity rather than flapping their wings. They are fascinated by the multiverse and intrusions into the material world from the far realm. The young Amethyst Dragon has a CR9 stat block. 2 very cute Amethyst Dragon Wyrmlings can be picked up as promo figures. So remember those Dragonflesh Grafters that were trying to become dragons themselves? Well, this is the final stage, assuming that they've managed to stay alive this long. They basically succeed. They're far more dragon than humanoid at this point. They crave treasure, they have acid churning in their stomachs, which they can exhale as a breath weapon, and they're able to regenerate up to a point. They can even fly on those wings. In the end, they have a CR of 6. This flying sweet potato with eyes is called an Drake. And if you're thinking this is probably where they tossed a beholder and a dragon into a mixer and hit start, then you would be correct. A beholder can manifest this being into existence if it finds itself in a rivalry with a dragon for a fairly long period of time. It has an anti-magic breath weapon wave sort of thing from its eye inside its mouth. And that was a sentence I just said. The eyeballs on the wings each have an eye ray attack associated with a dragon breath weapon or a traditional beholder eye ray attack. Left to their own devices, Drakes behave more or less like regular young dragons. They have a CR of 8. This Drake mini is about 8 inches tall. And here is the gorgeous young Sapphire Dragon. In a little bit here, I'll show you what this one looks like next to the adult Sapphire Dragon that we got previously. In fact, I'll show you several dragon families. The Sapphire Dragons are rather like generals. They're militant and territorial, highly strategic when it comes to war and battle. They're able to burrow underground, which can often give them advantage in encounters. They frequently ally with Emerald Dragons to track down and eliminate foes from the far realm. They like to collect weapons and armor for their hordes. A young Sapphire Dragon has a CR of 9. And finally, our capstone mini of the set is the Dragonelle. Dragonelles are distant relatives to all the other dragons that we've talked about today. They're able to understand speech to some degree, but they aren't really intelligent enough to speak it. They're driven by the desire for food, like me and my cats. So they're basically feral, slightly weaker dragons. Though, if raised from hatchlings, they can be domesticated enough to be used as mounts, something that most actual dragons would never abide. This mini is pretty enormous as well. It is about 10 inches tall. It has a relatively unimpressive CR2 stat block though, and it is technically a large creature. Now, at first first glance, there are a lot of minis here, but because of the nature of dragons in D&D with their various life stages, we really end up only scratching the surface of what minis this book could inspire. Now, admittedly, we already have quite a few minis for the various chromatic dragons, but this set didn't really provide us with any new metallic dragon minis at all. We also didn't get any dragon turtles, or fairy dragons, shadow dragons, or topaz dragons unless you count those promo figures. As for the included bestiary, we did get minis for most of them, though we're missing some that could be really interesting, like the animated breath and a ghost dragon. We're also missing the actual Draconian Infiltrator, though I expect that will show up somewhere down the line, as this isn't the first time that WizKids has ended up mislabeling a mini, which I assume is a result of some last-minute change. But all in all, WizKids could probably make a whole other set of Fizban's minis if they really wanted to. The set really does feature some great figures, though. I adore all the new Dragonborn figures. It is such a diverse array of new Dragonborn minis to play with. Of course, great for your PCs, but also fantastic as members of a dragon's entourage. And that Dragonborn of Bahamut is one of my favorite PC minis ever. The Draconians are a fantastic new faction to throw at your players, really impressive minis and some great storytelling potential too. The Kobolds are super cute, and you know I can never get enough Kobolds. The Dragonflesh creatures also give you a story to tell, as it looks like that's the same person at different stages of their transformation. And of course, it's great to get so many new dragon minis, especially the new gem dragons. With the promo figures, we have at least 2 age stage minis for most of the types of dragons now, but there's certainly room for more young and adult dragons. So let's talk about the 2 types of boosters you can get this time around to accommodate those giant figures like the Dragonelle we have over here and that big ol' Hydroloth. First, there are huge boosters, which are the ones you're used to. They contain 1 huge or large figure and then 3 medium to small ones. Now, the new super boosters contain a single huge rare figure. There are 8 huge rare figures, the ones numbered between 39 and 46, namely the Dragonbone Golem, the Hoard Mimic, the young Sea Serpent, the young Amethyst Dragon, the Dragonflesh Abomination, the Drake, the young Sapphire Dragon, and the Dragonelle. This isn't actually the first time that WizKids has split the boosters like this. They also did it 10 years ago with the Pathfinder Battles Rise of the Runelord set, which we haven't reviewed yet. So maybe we'll scoot over to Soundpoint and talk about those one day. And as for Fizban's boosters, you may know that you can traditionally get individual booster boxes, but you can also get bricks, which contain 8 boosters, and cases, which contain 4 bricks or 32 boosters. For Fizban's, they are offering super bricks, which contain 6 huge boosters and 2 super boosters. And you can get super cases, which contain 4 super bricks. So 24 huge boosters and 8 super boosters. So theoretically, you should be getting all the figures, including those 8 huge rare figures. The case will run you about $560 to $600 at the moment. The bricks seem to be going for about $150 each. A regular booster has an MSRP of $20, but you'll probably be able to find that cheaper as you shop around. I'm only seeing one store listing for a single super booster for pre-order right now, and they priced it at $50. So I don't know, we'll probably know more about the specific pricing of those as we get a little bit closer to release, and we're expecting this set to launch sometime May or June 2022. Now, WizKids is continuing their Adult Dragon and their Ancient Dragon mini line, so we will see more Fizban's related dragons coming out over the next several years. Next up, we have the Adult Bronze Dragon, which you can see our review of in the corner of the screen up there. And you have an Adult Silver Dragon coming out sometime around summertime. We also have the Ancient Red Dragon coming out later this year as well. Plus, we have a pack of smaller fairy dragons to look forward to, so that dragon train never really stops. We cover a lot of ground here, and I got a chance to cook up my favorite meal, some Japanese curry with lots of garlic. So let me know what you think of this set in the comments section down below, and shoot me any questions you've got. And don't forget, our Kickstarter is ending on Sunday, so don't miss out. This is the best price that we're going to have for these Kobold plushies. All 6 are unlocked now, and as we film this, we are hoping to unlock a surprise 7th kobold, Kaku the Monk. I am so stonking excited. Of course, we also have our mini STL files that are professionally pre-supported, so they couldn't be easier to print and add to your games. We have 3 packs of minis, Young Adventurers, Veteran Adventurers, and our Gargantuan Harvest Dragon, plus our pins, our Goblin Gold Coin, some sticker sheets, and so much more. Now is the time to lock in your pledge. Just go visit koboldplush.com. And be sure to pick up the starter bundles of Deck of Mini animated spell cards from our friends over at Hit Point Press. These are tarot-sized waterproof cards featuring 8 frames of lenticular animation each. And if you think they look good on video, I promise you that it doesn't do them justice to how good they look in real life. The starter bundle of low-level spells are a great way to get started, and each bundle is $20 off for a limited time. Help support us here at The Gallant Goblin by picking up some awesome things from our sponsors using our link below the video, and that lets them know that you got them from us. That is the Deck of Mini animated spells from Hit Point Press. All right, it's time to eat. If you haven't tried Japanese curry, you absolutely need to pick up some from your local supermarket. Just look for those packages that look like this. I'll throw it on the screen here. You can find them in your Asian food aisle. Just be sure to add lots of garlic or dragon spices. And thank you for tagging along as I cooked up some dinner. If you enjoyed the video, hitting the like button down below helps us out a lot. Be sure you're subscribed so you don't miss anything. And let me take this chance to thank my friend, who shall remain nameless and who will probably never see this, for helping us evolve our channel here a little bit. You know who you are. You can find us over on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. For now, though, stay safe, have fun, love each other, and I will see you next time at The Gallant Goblin.